to celebrate. All right, welcome everyone to our work session. The first item of business is employee introductions. First, engineering technician Nate Hall and heavy equipment operator Brian Fisher, and I'll welcome Public Works Director Tate.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Nathaniel Hall, nicknamed Nate. Nate, come on up here.
Okay.
Nate was born and raised in Meridian, Mississippi. I love Meridian, Mississippi. After taking trade courses early in high school, he gained an interest in the architectural, engineering, construction industry, which led him to pursue a BS at Southern Miss in architectural engineering technology, which is a 4-year program. He comes to us with 6 years of professional experience. Nate has worked for multiple companies and people from different cultures in Orlando, Florida, and Chattanooga, Tennessee, as an architectural technician in many markets. Those projects that he's worked on include design for Aldi grocery store remodels, retail outlet stores, and educational facilities, such as the construction center in Chattanooga. Nate tells me that it's been an up and down life's journey to this point. His hope is to combine his skill set and knowledge that he has developed and transition that into public works as an engineering technician. He states that one of his goals is to learn and contribute the best he can to the continued growth and development for the Red Bank area. He appreciates the opportunity and looks forward to working with everyone during his time here at the City of Red Bank. Commissioners, Nate Hall.
Nice to meet you too.
Welcome.
All right, you too.
My pleasure.
All right.
Yes, sir.
It's not the key to the city, but it is the easy button to wear on your lapel. And I tell you what, Nate immediately struck a chord with me because I told the city manager from day one, he learned how to spell TDOT. I catch him frequently looking at TDOT plans and TDOT data on the internet. Anybody that has that much interest in TDOT will make something of TDOT.
Is this the gentleman that is he going to take over your
Thermoplastic machine.
I give it up. I give it up on that one. No, I was thought that you said you needed somebody for the cubicle, somebody to do all of the stuff. Is this what is it?
Sidewalk and inventory.
Yeah.
management, yes, sir.
And he's a heavy equipment operator, or is that?
No, that's
someone else.
Okay. Because I was wondering why you needed a 4-year BS to get to operate equipment. No. Well, congratulations. Welcome on board. Thank you, sir.
Anything you need to say, Nate?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity and hope I can contribute and make the city better. So nice to meet everybody.
Nice
to meet you. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Hall.
Welcome.
You're all good. I see you. Okay, next I would like to introduce to you Mr. Brian Fisher. Brian, if you'd come up. Brian was recently hired as heavy equipment operator in the stormwater department. He's married and the father of 2 children, and he moved to Chattanooga in the summer of 2022. He has your daughter. He has one of his children living. The others had commitments. After his move, Brian says that he fell in love with the community, and when he's not working, he can be found exploring the outdoors, mountain biking, paddleboarding, or hiking. And Tennessee's beautiful landscapes and friendly people make it the perfect place to call home. Before settling in Tennessee, he owned his own logistics company, which gave him the opportunity to travel across the country. He also served in the Army Reserve, where he discovered his passion for heavy equipment operation.
Cool.
He is excited to contribute to the city of Red Bank and looks forward to becoming an active member of the community. Commissioners, Mr. Brian Fisher. Well, I'm just going to say, welcome. Very easy button. Anything you'd like to say?
I appreciate the opportunity.
Excellent.
One
Glad
thing
to
that
have you.
One thing that caught my eye on his application was he had previously worked with jetter trucks and stormwater and sewer utilities.
Do you have any experience on thermoplastic? All right, just asking for a friend. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for doing it.
Welcome, Mr. Fisher. All right, we also have introductions for the police department. Police Officer Daniel Green, and Police Cadet J.C. Neal, and I'll welcome Chief Seymour to make those introductions.
Well, good evening. Both of these candidates have thermoplastic.
Yeah. Glad to get him on board.
I've learned to do about anything. So, really good at eating donuts.
Yeah.
I don't, well, I was going, never mind, I was going to throw a dart at the fire department, but I'll be nice. But, and they weren't even speaking. So, we, of course, recently, months or two ago, had interviews, and we had 3 openings. So these are filling 2 of those 3 positions. To my left is John Payne. John went through the academy last fall, and completed it, and then started at another law enforcement agency in the area, and decided that wasn't for him. So he's got about 8 or so months experience, and decided to come up here where we're just really great here in Red Bank. So he has kicked it off with already starting the field training program. So he'll spend a few weeks in the car with some senior officers and learning our kind of ways we do things and things like that. So this is John. I got him here from the big borrowed steel. Pretty good. So to my right is J.C. Neal. So she went through the application process as well. We were impressed with her. We decided to sponsor her through the academy that's starting here in about a week and a half. Now, both have been here for about a week and a half. But JC's been in the office, kind of doing the administrative stuff, learning all the policies and going through all that. She just, you see the smile on her face. So now I'm through. No, that is. But she's going to go through that 12-week program, graduate in mid-December. When she graduates, then she'll go into the field training program as well. So we want to welcome JC as well. Now, it's your turn to get the microphone and speak or anything you like.
Speak.
See, they're always quiet unless you're there in a big room setting. They don't want to say.
Important thing I've learned so far is to shut up and listen.
You will go far.
Just thank you guys for the opportunity. I like my other agency, but this one's a whole lot better. So, thank you guys for the opportunity.
You can tell us who it was after. It's fine. Welcome. Thank you all so
Yeah,
much.
welcome. All right, our next item of business is a beer board meeting, special event beer permit for Jason Bowers, DBA Clever Ale House LLC for 4 one-day events, September 21st, small area study, community workshop 2, and food truck Fridays for October 4th, 18th, and November 1st. Is anybody presenting this item?
I can speak on behalf until they're here.
Okay.
They will be here for tonight's commission meeting for the board meeting. And so we have reached out to the owners of Clever Ale House, also owners of several other businesses in the local area. And we have asked them to come on and try out serving beer at our food truck Fridays. And so they went through the process that we have for doing a beer permit. The city has given them the letter signed by our city manager, giving them the approval to serve alcohol at our events. We went through it pretty meticulously with Ms. Tracy and Ruthie over all of the pieces that we need. And we will actually be, the city themselves will be getting the wristbands, the tickets, and the signs, which we've already procured all of those items for our events since we're asking them to come on. And we'll be using those for all of our events moving forward, including the Christmas Parade and Festival and the Jubilee. And like I said, Jeff or Jason will be here to present this evening.
So we will be providing those wristbands moving forward, even at the Christmas parade, the Rotary does the beer usually,
Correct.
but we'll be providing the bands to them. In the future.
Yeah, we decided for 2 reasons. One, since we're asking them to come do it for a city sponsor, that we should be covering that side of things. The second piece is we want to be in control of what those wristbands look like, what those tickets look like, etc. And we have lots of different varieties to go with, so they're not going to be the same every time, so that there's no confusion of where they're coming from and what they should look like.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
So there won't be any beer offerings yet at the September Food Truck Fridays. That won't start until October.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions for Mr. Foley?
Clever, I will say Clever is filling another hole for us in our events. it was recently we found out that unfortunately, Clumpy's was unable to continue doing their food truck, so they will not be doing food trucks anymore, along with their hot dog catering company. And so Clever Creamery has stepped in and helped fill the void where there's not a lot of dessert food trucks, and they will be bringing their ice cream to several of our Food Truck Fridays.
I did see them on the list for this Friday.
Yeah, so they won't actually be doing their dinner offerings, they'll just be doing their Clever Creamery ice cream and handmade cones,
That will be quite welcome.
That's amazing. Yes.
and local.
Yes. Incredible.
Perfect.
Cool.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Graby. Oh,
Next one.
sorry.
Oh, he's the next one.
Oh, you were the next one also. That's right. We have a beer permit, for Oktoberfest
Yes.
as well. Anything to add about that one?
So in our beer permitting and ordinance, the applicant can only, from one company, can only do 4 beer permits per year. And it's not a fiscal or a calendar year, it's a rolling year. And so for them to do this, they were using their other business civil provisions, which has a beer license as well, for that application.
Okay.
For their Oktoberfest, they're partnering with local business and nonprofit in our area to put this on with Be the Change, Be Caffeinated, and I believe that they're going to be having some other food trucks coming in as well.
Do we have other beer vendors busting down our door for events and competition?
Not as of yet, but we want to make sure that this is open to other beer vendors if they would like to. And that's what I believe that the 4 was originally put in. Not saying that that can't change in the future, but to make sure that other businesses in the area have an opportunity to submit their interest in doing an event with us or doing their own event in the area.
I'd be curious to look at that because I'd hate to have the one and only vendor who's interested locked out because of an arbitrary limit. But as long as the gears are still turning smoothly, just keep an eye on that limitation.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Gravy.
Thank you.
All right, next item is public hearing and request to rezone 5011 Dayton Boulevard, ordinance number 24-1264. And I'll turn it over to Director Johnson.
Thank you. Good evening. The owners of 511 Dayton Boulevard are Anthony and Melba Chitwood, along with the applicant, Mr. Gordon Colvin. They are expected to be in attendance this evening during the public hearing at 6 o'clock to be in support of the rezoning request before you, which is C1 general commercial to C3 neighborhood commercial for the intended use of residential townhomes. The Planning Commission did consider the rezoning request at their July 24th meeting, and they were unanimous in their recommendation to support the rezoning with a condition the proposed development of townhomes be no more than 7 dwelling units as reflected on the preliminary site plan that is attached to your rezoning ordinance as well. The preliminary plat that is attached to the ordinance does include new sidewalk connectivity along Dayton Boulevard to tie into the existing sidewalks at Hartman Hills. It will also include the conduit necessary for installing future light poles, again, in harmony with the Hartman Hills sidewalks and lighting that's there now. So furthermore, the plan also does include adding sidewalk installation going up Holiday Lane. They will include that on their parcel, but let's get that started. The applicant is also aware of the property's admired Dawn Redwood tree. And he also appreciates the passion that is surrounding it, given its location on the property. The option to keep the tree significantly reduces the viability of the property for development. Additionally, the tree does have what's identified as a double trunk, meaning that there is the potential structural weakness which can lead to its structural failure. I'm not saying I've done a full analysis as to the age of the tree, but it is apparent it does have a very large double trunk at the base. The developer is proposing, however, to replace this non-native tree with a native white oak or similar native tree with placement on the site to enhance beautification of this area. Staff has reviewed and is in support of the rezoning request. The current zone of C1 commercial allows for residential uses, but only as single-family detached units. The proposed C3 neighborhood commercial rezoning specifically allows for townhomes as proposed for this site. Given the size of the parcel, it's just over half an acre, which is approximately 0.63 of an acre, which is about 27,500 square feet. The attached 7 townhomes that are being proposed with their adequate parking and their required landscape buffering is obviously an appropriate density for this site. However, the proposed condition to limit the sites to, quote, no more than 7 dwelling units as depicted on the attached preliminary site may simply be unnecessary. And it could also hinder development of the site should this particular proposal fall through. We know things change before something happens. If that condition is attached to this particular rezoning, again, you could hinder further development of that property. So staff's recommendation again is to support the rezoning from C1 to C3, but without the condition of the density. A C3 neighborhood commercial zone specifically allows increased density by ways of townhomes and condominiums themselves. It also encourages neighborhood specialty businesses and shops to support an increase in density. So again, my recommendation is that it be rezoned to C3 without conditions.
Thank you very much. Director Johnson, Vice Mayor?
Without conditions, does that mean that they could potentially fit more townhomes there?
Depending on the number of units that they tried to propose, they could. I'm not going to say it's impossible, that it could or they couldn't. But given the square footage of that particular property,
Right.
when you add residential and then our requirements for parking, buffering, those types of things, that really does start to fall into the most appropriate number on the property.
Has the developer indicated any desire to do anything other than what's been presented to and voted on by the planning commission?
Correct. Now,
Okay.
as he's presented it, and he, again, the applicant, did not have an objection to that condition to be put on the
Okay.
property.
My understanding is that he plans to sell these residential units. Is that
That's my
correct?
understanding, that they
Um,
are for ownership.
So does that mean that the lot is going to be subdivided then?
It depends on how they're structured when they're set up as townhomes, right, versus condominiums. Townhomes, it's usually one cohesive, they live on one parcel, it's the unit themselves that they own, not the land underneath.
Okay. Okay.
It's a legal classification of townhome versus condominium.
Okay. One more question. If, so currently it's C1, which allows single family detached.
Correct.
We do have a minimum square footage requirement on single family detached homes. Do you know how many could potentially fit on that lot?
Possibly 2.
Okay. So we could have 2 homes or we could have 7 homes. Okay.
So something else I want to bring to your attention, the nearest C3 district to where this property is located is down on Barker Road. And it's the further south you come down Dayton Boulevard, you really get into these high density for C3. It's already a significant footprint. I'm not understanding historically the gap between the C3 now and then a single family, and then you have a regular commercial. So again, moving forward, as we continue to look at our land use regulations, those types of areas will be, taken a deeper look at, especially for some of the existing uses that are on the property as commercial 1 actually are more reflective of what should be happening in a C3.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Director Johnson?
No, I know there's a big stink about the tree, but
It is a non-redwood.
yeah,
It is a non-native tree.
right. And I understand also the split trunk down there at the bottom because there's just nothing to support the tree. So, as the tree guy says, thousands of them that are one side breaks off.
Yeah.
But,
And if I can add to that, the tree itself on that property, it whether it's rezoned or whether it's not, the property owner does have the right to do
Sure.
with it as they see fit.
there's nothing we can do to stop, to save the tree.
Not
Now,
having
I just said, I just realized there was concern about
And the
that.
property owner does appreciate and understand.
Sure. But, also I kind of like the whole idea of having we can't grow out.
Correct.
So we gotta grow small, and this is along the Dayton Boulevard line right there, right? I'm good with it.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Mayor. I was just gonna say, I remembered that I saw on the plan that they had called it Holiday Flats, I think in homage to Holiday Lane and whoever that person was in our community, because that's what most of our roads are named after. And so I thought that was really a nice gesture.
Especially if they're gonna be starting a sidewalk segment on Holiday Lane. Hopefully a bit of an olive branch to the Holiday Lane community that I know is going to certainly grieve the loss of this tree, as even I will.
And I will add the note that the proposed developer of this site actually is local to Red Bank. This is not a stop in, build one time and leave. He has a significant history in Red Bank and again, appreciates, everything that comes with change in Red Bank.
Well, these small infill developments are exactly what Red Bank needs, but something that a lot of times doesn't interest the bigger, national and regional developers because it's kind of too small potatoes for them. So we need these local small developers and to be able to take interest in a parcel that's only a couple acres, maybe
0.63
less than an
Just a
acre.
little, a little over half an acre.
Less than an acre, yeah. I don't know that Rise Partners would ever bother with less than an acre, for example. So, the C3 zoning, this is something that you're saying is going to be taken a bigger picture look at through our comprehensive plan.
Correct. The plan is, once we finish the comprehensive plan, start identifying nodes of development. I think it's a fair statement to say that there are distinct differences between North, Central, and South Red Bank on Dayton Boulevard, what's happening, as well as the opportunity to take a look at land use regulations, particularly your zoning, to make sure that it's in harmony with our comprehensive plan for where we hope to see things grow the next 15, 20 years, and really start layering some uses rather than be so exclusive.
Well, I was going to say, if this is exactly the sort of development, densification, residential, right on Dayton Boulevard that we would want to see, it seems counterproductive that they're even having to ask for a rezoning in the first place. Because if they're doing what we're hoping that they would do, it should be allowed by right without all these hoops to jump through.
Yes, and I think it was surprising to take a look at the C1 and know that you can't have townhomes, but you can have single family residential without an added addition of it. So, again.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor, I think this is one of those that, this is where we're headed to. If we do a comprehensive plan, then this should pretty much, do you see this being taken care of when we get our comprehensive plan being taken care of on our land uses and all of that stuff? So we'll know what we want to do. We don't have to come up here and say, well, sounds like a good idea. We have a plan.
Right. Comprehensive plan really comes down to it's the portrait, the image. When you get into your land use regulations, you really start getting into the details.
Okay.
You can really see the paint strokes, so to speak.
Right. So, will the plan to start give us ideas on how to structure our land use? Okay.
And zoning ordinances.
Right.
And subdivision regulations, those two do live hand in hand.
Sure.
We want them to be in harmony with each other, not in
Right.
conflict.
Well, and it all ties together, the multimodal, because I'd like to be able to get in a golf cart and go to the grocery store. Eventually I kind of hope that thing, it'd probably be my kids before that'll happen, but it would be one of those things, the multimodal, the plans or parks, all of this comes into our city and we're trying to paint a picture of that city, right? All right. I know that's a little off subject here, but I think it relates.
I believe if this time next year, I think with comprehensive plan and starting to fine tune our land use regulations, this falls right in harmony with where we project things to start molding into.
Yeah.
Well, having those land use regulations sorted out is a day I look forward to with much anticipation. All right, any other questions for Director Johnson on the rezoning? Okay. Thank you very much. Next item, approve update to City Manager Granham's employment contract, resolution 24-1726. Director Perry.
I'm not sure what to do, how to do this. I presented it to you about a month ago. revising some things, taking some things out, adding some things. I guess we'll start with any questions.
Any questions for Director Terry regarding city manager's new contract?
Can we kind of get a little background on how we got here? Just for we're in the know, right? But,
Well, broad overhead strokes.
yeah, thank you.
We hired Mr. Granum in 21, I believe. And thank you.
Hired him.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. September of 21. And at that time, we negotiated an employment contract because the city manager is our one and only employee of the board, and all the other city employees report to him. And that contract has not been changed or amended since he was hired in September of 21. And some changes and modifications were requested. Also through the budget process, we talked about adjusting his salary through to make it in line with the market rate for city managers in our area, because he had also not received any pay increases or even cost of living increases since being hired in September of 21, and that rate
Or the bonus.
negotiated.
Or the bonus, the AARP bonus we put out.
Yeah,
there.
right,
We
That's right. We distributed a bonus with some of the COVID relief ARPA funds that we received, but the city manager was not a recipient of one of those bonuses. Unlike, was it all the other city employees, or was it just first responders?
Full-time.
All full-time
And
city
he didn't
employees.
receive- We got it in 2 zones, and
Yeah.
you didn't get out of one.
Right.
That's
So during the budget process, we talked about adjusting his salary to be competitive with other city managers in our region. And currently his salary is baked into his contract,
Right.
so to speak. So we had to make an update to his contract also to modify that, in addition to some small changes that were requested. And then we did approve the budget with that additional funds for the city manager, but he's not been receiving those funds since the budget took effect July 1, because we haven't updated his contract, which is what we have before us today, as well as a separate resolution that speaks to his pay exclusively, because we made a clause in the new contract that separated out the city manager's pay, so in the future, if we needed to make a pay adjustment, we wouldn't have to revisit the entire contract. We could adjust the pay exclusively.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that, Madam Mayor. I really am. I really am. But you've done it very well.
Solid summary of how we got to where we are today.
Well, and a lot of the little things and since we were there anyway, readjusting all of those little things that like residency and things like that, that I see no reason for, I wouldn't sign a contract like that. You know what I'm saying? I guess, and if you want the job, you got it, but there's some unfair stuff in there, in my opinion, And
Well, we want the city manager to stay with us as long as he wants to.
yeah,
But of course, when and if he should decide to retire or move on for any other
and he's
reason.
not exorbitant, this raise is not exorbitantly, this is a little low for a city manager job
For a
in,
city
in,
our
in
size.
our area,
Yes.
right? I believe Signal Mountain just,
I can tell you the numbers. I have all of
Well-
Hamilton County municipalities
well,
right here.
I yield to the vice mayor.
So, I have the salary, the number of employees, budget, and the population. I don't know if you guys want me to sound off all of that, but populations are all around the same, except East Ridge has almost 22 million or 22,000. Their budget is
They're taking
23
over.
million. Sorry. And then Lakeside, obviously, they have a little under 2,000 residents. So, but even there, so let me just start from the top. Collegedale, 83 employees, a salary of $144,830. Eastridge has 187 employees, $132,080. And I can tell you that that's low, actually, because Scott retired. And then they had a different city manager for about 3 years. And then that city manager left. And Scott agreed to come out of retirement back to Eastridge at a lower rate than really what they would be paying a city manager for the size of their city. And it's just because he'd been there for so many years. He knew the elected officials and just wanted to work with them again. Lakeside, even though they only have 7 employees, that city manager gets paid $90,000. And she's great, but also that's only $20,000 less than what Mr. Grantham is making right now. Saudi Daisy, 85 employees, that city manager is making $134,430. And then Signal Mountain is 88 employees and $135,000 salary.
So we're saving money.
We are saying we would be. I mean, we would still be the lowest of any sizable city. Chattanooga doesn't have a city manager. Ridgeside, Walden, and Lookout Mountain do not have city managers. So that's why those cities were not included.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
You're welcome, and I will be happy to repeat that any other time.
Any questions for Director Perry or about the contract?
Are we discussing both resolutions right now?
We can, if there's no more questions about the contract, and we can kind of come back to it if we need to. The next item of business is approved commission making budgeted adjustments to city manager Granham's salary, resolution 24-1727. And that's what I mentioned earlier, where we decided to break that salary portion out of the contract so that it can be adjusted independently.
Right.
And that's that resolution that would.
So was the salary the only question in the contract?
I have no question.
Is this the time to speak up or wait till the end?
Yeah,
Well,
if you have any
If
questions
you have
about the
questions about
contract.
contract,
I just have some statements I'm curious, if I may. Okay.
Please.
I really was under the impression that the position of the city manager works for the commission as an employee. And since I've served on the commission, I have not completed an evaluation that was specifically served by us 5 commissioners. As I reviewed the contract section that has no revisions, described 3.01, that's performance evaluation. B.A. quote, conduct a formulary session where both employee and commission meet first to determine goals. And B, prepare a written evaluation of the goals. C, present a written summary of the evaluation to the employee, i.e. city manager. Instead of the results of an evaluation tool from 360 Multi-Rater with the Institute for Social and Emotional Intelligence for the workplace performance cost $3,500. Those invited to complete the evaluation were directors, commissioners, and a few chosen Red Bank residents. Thirdly, and I've just got 6 points, I would have thought a contract update or renewal would have been supported through the process of this annual evaluation by the 5 commissioners. Might we have had a conversation among commissioners, the city manager, and attorney together to update a contract prior to the resolution? This raise is based on being comparable percentage to other employees rather than performance, which I appreciate his performance. But it's not solely conducted nor evaluated by this commission. This perhaps sets a precedence that the commission has little control to create a contract. Lastly, I recognize that contracts can be updated. However, at what expense? There's the added $20,000, $3,500 for the unbudgeted evaluation and additional attorney fees for the Red Bank legal representation that Mr. Stultz understandably and honorably recused himself. Thank you.
Did you have a course of action or change or anything that resulting from that statement?
No. Some parts of the contract were changed and some were not, and those were all stated. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Any other questions or thoughts about the contract or the resolution for the salary?
Well, I think he's bargained 130. I'm just saying, he's a professional. He knows how to get things done. He knows how to motivate his people. He knows how to lead his people. He knows how to hire people.
And recognize.
And there's a lot of pigs and pokes before you get one that's good. I know that. And you know, and I have to say that the commission did have a good extensive interview session with the things. We had many interviews, and he stood out. He was a very qualified candidate. He still remains a very qualified candidate. I've enjoyed all of my time with him. He's very reasonable. He's changed my mind when I thought it couldn't be changed sometimes too. And sometimes he hadn't. But more often than not, I'm going to say. But I think he's a very competent, skillful administrator. And I think that we would be foolish to not compensate him.
Vice, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Unless you were about to say something there. Okay. I was going to say I agree with you, and that vote was a 5-0 vote when we hired Mr. Granum. I will say that, you know, we, according to that contract, we are the employer. So it's not the responsibility of the employee to create his own performance evaluation process. That is our fault. That has not been formalized. And so that's not the responsibility of this person that we're talking about here. That's our responsibility, and that's a failing on all 5 of our parts.
And point well made too, because we have not.
And I will say,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
hold on just a second. Sorry. I will say that, to my understanding, I don't think we've ever had a performance evaluation process in place for any other city manager ever. So I think that was a great step in the right direction on our part. I think incorporating that into the contract. But I think that we didn't have an HR person at that time. And the first time that we did do an evaluation process, Miss Perry was learning and still going through certification courses for HR. So we haven't had anybody fully qualified to help us with that really, you know, until this year. Last year, I can't recall when you got your certification, Miss Perry, but, you know, that's something where there's been what am I trying to say? It's baby steps to get there to where we need to be. And I think that is definitely something that needs to be formalized as an annual procedure. What procedure are we going to use? What date does it need to be completed by? You know, if he started October 11th, but was hired September 8th, you know, what does that time frame look like? And I think that's something on us that we all need to be talking about with Miss Perry.
And that's where I'm going to say that it was in the spirit of trying to keep him in line with his contract that we attempted the evaluation processes that we have done.
Mm-hmm.
And it is now obvious that I need to initiate. When do you need me to say, hey, it's time to do the evaluation? It's due in September.
Right.
That's what I said.
Yeah. I think that's what needs to
Which
happen.
Probably have you guys appoint maybe one person that's like, okay, it's my job to get this started.
Mhm.
We'll go out, we'll do it however you choose to do it. We could probably go out and get another third party who does just a simple evaluation. That you can contribute the questions to.
Is it-
Up into anything.
Does MTAS provide that service? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna do it as depth as we would like it to be though.
Just a performance review?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that was our experience with the first one where you were getting some of their assistance and maybe it was just not quite exactly what we wanted that to look like.
Commissioner Burbank, sorry, you had
Sure,
something more?
and it's stated here that, I mean, you come to a common table and discuss maybe what the city manager feels are the goals and or what would our goals, not the retreat goals, but goals with and for the city manager.
Well,
That would
That
be
has to be done
discussed.
in a public meeting.
right, yeah, because of the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, if we were all to come together at one time, we would have to basically make it a special called meeting
Sure,
for that
yes.
purpose. So we'd have to add another meeting to the calendar, in order to conduct that.
Yeah,
If we wanted to do it together, obviously, if we submit individual evaluations, as we have done in the past, then it doesn't require a special called meeting. But that's certainly for the commission, all of you together to decide, how you'd prefer to manage it in the future.
But my gut is to, when we finish the budget cycle, go straight into, we're gonna have an evaluation coming up in September.
Yeah.
And that seems to be like the right time to trigger it.
Okay,
That
is
sounds,
everybody on board with that?
that sounds good to me.
Okay, September, and then, are you all, leaning more towards a special called meeting or towards individual, submitted responses?
Well, it stated that there were goals to be set as if it were a conversation, which that would be.
Well, see, and I interpreted that as the goals that
commission
we set,
goals.
that was to be the commission goals that we set that for,
I
But
get
now, I, in my opinion, I'd say do it during the special call meet, during the retreat, but either before or after when the public flogging begins. but and it might not be a good time because you don't want to jump on somebody and say, now, hey, let's go to work. I don't know.
I also thought at first it was the goals of the
Okay.
commission, but then it's the goals not of the commission that are decided as far as what the contract reads. That these are more a guideline for the city manager's goals in the job.
Well, I think his goals are to make strides toward the goals that we set as at the strategic planning retreat. That's how, if we're saying these are the goals we're saying as the 5 elected representatives for this city, this is what we're hearing from our neighbors and the surveys and community feedback. This is what they're telling us. Then we're saying to him, when we set those goals by majority vote, consensus at our retreat, that those are the goals. And then he needs to be making strides toward those goals. That's how I'm reading it.
And then my opinion is, and how's he doing going towards those goals?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that can be part of that evaluation. That's, we'll have a good chunk of the year to be able to.
February to
Well, if
September.
it's September to September, I would say.
Well, I mean,
probably.
if you're setting your commission goals in February, then he's gonna have a general idea of what you're expecting to get done.
Right.
Yeah.
And then July through September, you can evaluate where he is with those goals.
Right.
Or maybe where you'd like to see him go with those goals if he's not going to, he should.
Right.
That kind of thing.
I
And
agree.
even as it's been mentioned, it doesn't happen overnight, but maybe the process or how much closer to the goals have been attained, or who is the director that's helping move that,
Mhm.
which is under the city manager's role. Yeah.
I also interpreted the city goals as our commission goals, and that the city manager's goal would be to move towards those commission goals that we had selected. Not to say I have no legal expertise, so I'm not the best at reading legal contracts, perhaps. Mr. Graham, do you have something you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have some experience in the past with executive evaluations and process. And I'd be happy to work with Tracy and propose back to the commission a process that would, in broad strokes, the city would retain a third party. The third party has the infrastructure to do this. They pulse all the legislators on. Well, actually, what precedes that is the commission has identified one person that's gonna work with Tracy to represent the commission. And then the commission, the identified member of the commission, say for example, the mayor works with Tracy, they hire this third party, and they determine what they wanna, kind of rough in what the goals would look like. And the third party then goes and sends out a form, and everybody can individually contribute to that. And then the mayor and the third party sort of digest that. And it could be a variety of generic aspects of leadership. It could be specific commission goals. It could be a hybrid where there's an agreed upon rubric that you're basing the evaluation on. And at the end of that, the third party produces a draft document that comes back into the commission for perusal by the entire body as a public document. And then coming from that back to the individual member of the commission who has been identified, they would write an executive summary. That really is my preference, right? And it would be, in this example, a letter from the mayor to me on behalf of the commission that summarizes all this data that's in there. There's some areas of strength, there's some areas where we'd like to see growth, there's some new initiatives where we want to pivot, that kind of thing. And then it's adopted by the commission as a vote. So really what's facilitating all this is not Tracy or me as staff, it's this third party. And the basis of that evaluation is something that the appointed member of the commission would work with the third party to bake into that rubric. And as my contract says, we have some agency in saying, well, can we include this, or why is that in there? And there would be a little bit of back and forth as the rubric itself is developed, and then it goes back to the commissioners for completing the rubric.
And I can do some research and like on some different third parties that we can also use as well.
Okay.
And that was our time.
Yep. Does that sound like an acceptable course of action to everyone?
That's what I mentioned, MTS.
Yeah, I think we could, I think, Tracy, you could reach out to Betsy maybe to see if that's something.
I'm not sure if we her or Hana, but
Or
I'll
Hana.
check and see what
Okay.
they have.
The benefit of MTAS is that they offer their services usually at no cost. But if it's not something they offer, then we have to look at paying a third
I
party.
would think they would
with
have
that.
something similar or a basis that any position could be evaluated.
Probably.
They offer a lot of services, but every now and then I've been surprised by a particular niche, and usually it has to do with the city manager. When I get into a bind that I find MTAS doesn't cover, and because they wish not to come between any city managers and commissions, it can be a delicate subject. And MTAS is a state-funded
Yeah.
entity that prefers not to make any enemies when not absolutely necessary. It's fair.
Unlike us.
Apparently. All right, if it's all right with everyone, the remaining agenda items are all covered on our 6 o'clock meeting. So if everyone would be okay with tabling those, then it is the time for citizen comments for items on the work session agenda, on this work session agenda. Mr. Bowman?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 2 minutes or less, and the city recorder will operate a timer. Please respect her direction and conclude any comments if time expires. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect a reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Michael McCain, 4200 Tacoma Avenue. I appreciate the library card. Some issues that I would like to be considered would be that the card not be renewed for individuals that have not been using the card. In other words, make sure they're using the card so the city's not wasting their money. The second thing is limit the availability of the card to retirees and individuals falling below a certain income level. That way, we're making that card available to those individuals. People that are above that income level, they have the ability to purchase that card. This also helps save the city money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCain. Any other comments for items on tonight's work session agenda? Okay, if there are no more comments, then any other business to discuss from the commission? I always try to miss that one.
Good job.
No?
I think I can hang this time.
Okay, in that case, we'll adjourn briefly and reconvene at our 6 o'clock meeting. Thank you, everyone.